White sand, endless coastlines, and sprawling luxury resorts. For decades, this is the image that has defined Goa in the global imagination. Every winter, millions of domestic and international travelers crowd into this tiny strip of India's western coast, bringing a massive influx of cash to hotels, restaurants, and nightlife venues. Then the monsoon hits. The sky turns gray, the flights stop, the shacks are dismantled, and the beaches empty out almost overnight. A state with multi-lane highways, massive airports, and heavy public infrastructure requires constant capital to function. You cannot run a government of this scale on 6 months of hotel bookings. Below the sand and the surface-level hospitality lies a complex, year-round economy. It operates parallel to the tourist bubbles, largely out of sight of the average visitor. Goa is a high-stakes financial machine. It is actively trying to balance explosive economic expansion with the physical survival of its own culture and landscape. To understand the money trail, we start where the capital first enters. A traveler pays for a week-long stay, injecting foreign currency or out-of-state rupees directly onto the coastline. This flowchart shows how that single transaction fractures. A hotel booking breaks down to pay the taxi driver, the local farmer supplying the kitchen, the laundry service, and the independent beach shack operator down the road. Because these secondary businesses rely entirely on the initial visitor, their cash flow is tightly bound to the peak tourist window. When the rains arrive in June, that primary cash injection stops. The network goes dark, and thousands of local businesses are forced into financial hibernation for half the year. The state government cannot fund its annual budget on a 6-month revenue cycle. To maintain its operations year-round, Goa relies on heavier, more permanent streams of income. A few miles inland, anchored in the Mondovi River, a different kind of economy lights up the night sky. These offshore casino vessels operate entirely independent of the beach crowds. Gaming is a year-round draw. It brings in a specific demographic of domestic high rollers who arrive regardless of the weather, providing a consistent revenue stream. This chart compares the state's tax yields. While hospitality taxes fluctuate wildly with the seasons, the licensing fees and direct taxes from these offshore gaming vessels deliver a massive, reliable anchor for the state's treasury. This consistency generates intense local friction. Residents routinely point to the heavy strain this concentrated influx puts on city infrastructure, traffic grids, and local resources. The state secures its necessary financial ballast, but the wealth generated on these boats remains largely segregated, rarely trickling down into the surrounding neighborhoods. Moving further inland, away from the water entirely, the landscape shifts to support heavy physical industries. For decades, the extraction and export of iron ore was the undisputed heavyweight of the Goan economy. Millions of tons of earth were moved through massive port facilities like this to feed global steel production. Today, a different type of earth moving dominates. Outside investors and developers are driving a massive real estate boom, constructing sprawling luxury villas across the interior. This map shows the pace of development. Through a series of recent, highly contested legal mechanisms, protected agricultural land is legally rezoned into commercial plots, clearing the way for rapid construction. To support this, the government is executing massive infrastructure upgrades. Projects like the new Mopa Airport and expanded arterial highways act as catalysts, accelerating the demand for land. These physical developments generate massive, immediate capital for developers and tax revenue for the state, but they also extract a permanent, irreversible cost from Goa's natural geography. Before the tourists wake up, and miles away from the real estate sites, the local workforce is already active in the villages. Long before the first luxury hotels were built, agriculture and coastal fishing sustained this region. These traditional trades are still operating every morning, forming a quiet but vital baseline of sustenance for local families. Alongside them, a new generation of local entrepreneurs is emerging. They are building small-scale tech startups, sustainable agriculture businesses, and craft industries that attempt to bridge traditional skills with modern markets. This local workforce provides the state's true resilience, acting as a buffer that absorbs the shocks of a volatile macroeconomy and outlasts cycles of external investment. Goa now stands at a critical juncture. The state is attempting to drive explosive economic growth while standing on centuries of deep historical identity. Policymakers are looking toward the horizon, proposing high-tech IT parks, renewable energy grids, and digital infrastructure to diversify the state's income away from pure land extraction. These modern ambitions clash directly with the immediate need to protect the state's dwindling forests, fragile watersheds, and heritage architecture before they are paved over. The central challenge is whether a region can systematically commodify its land, its coastlines, and its culture without eventually erasing the very things that made it valuable in the first place. The state's future survival now hinges on the difficult choices of its people, a form of capital far more significant than the seasonal revenue flowing through its hotels and mines.